Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick. Robert, thank you very much.
Good evening.
Great to have you on the show. First things first, what do you make of what we've seen there? So 10% tariff on Britain. It is 20% for the EU.
Look, it's deeply concerning for British businesses and workers right across the country in many sectors, but in particular in the British car manufacturing sector, which exports so much to the United States. I think there's a serious failure of the Starmer negotiating team. Keir Starmer is not a good negotiator. We've seen that in many other respects, like the Chagos deal, for example. He sacked the trade negotiator, Crawford Faulkner, who we had when we were in government, a highly respected individual, and he's lent upon Peter Mandelson, who frankly wouldn't know British interests if they slapped him in the face. This is a big failure. We've got to ensure now that Starmer gets back around the table and ultimately puts British interests first, because that is what Donald Trump is doing. He's putting the interests of the United States and American workers first. And I want to see Starmer do exactly the same.
Okay.
He shouldn't be pushed around by other countries, even if they're bigger players than us. So all options should remain on the table.
I've just had it in my ear that Trade Secretary or Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds has released a statement. So I'll read this out, reading it for the first time now, and I'll get your reaction to it, Mr. Jenrick, if that's OK. He says, "Nobody wants a trade war, and our intention remains to secure a deal. But nothing is off the table, and the government will do everything necessary to defend the UK's national interest." I'll read that one more time. This is Jonathan Reynolds, Business Secretary, saying, "Nobody wants a trade war, and our intention remains to secure a deal. But nothing is off the table, and the government will do everything necessary to defend the UK's national interest." Your views on that?
Well, look, Jonathan Reynolds has only in the last few days been to Washington and sat round the table with his opposite number. The Starmer government should have been in the room with the Trump administration long ago. Think of that visit that Starmer had, which was lauded by some parts of the press, where he sat in the Oval Office. What did that actually achieve? He offered a state visit to the United Kingdom, and then Donald Trump has gone and imposed tariffs. Sure, they're less than had we remained within the European Union, but they're still going to be very, very serious for British business, particularly the car manufacturing industry, which is already on its knees, thanks to the net zero zealotry of Ed Miliband and policies that are really, really harming jobs and livelihoods in places like Luton and Sunderland right now. So I want to see Starmer step up. I want to see him negotiating a trade arrangement that hives the UK out from these tariffs as quickly as possible, which is what he was promising just a few days ago.
Surely we should also now be seeing what Emmanuel Macron did when he came over under Theresa May, by the way, and then stood on the steps of Downing Street and said to every single French citizen, come back to the motherland, come back to France, we want your money, we want you over here, we want your wealth. He wasn't shy about doing that. Why doesn't Keir Starmer now stand up and say, OK, if you're a big business that's based in the European Union, get yourself to Britain. You can halve the amount of tariffs that you're paying there. This is the kind of stuff that he should be doing, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see him getting businesses to come and relocate here in the UK, trying to make the best of a bad situation and standing up for Britain. You know, don't be pushed around. Even if the United States is a bigger player than us, don't be pushed around, put British interests first.
But I don't think he is being pushed around. I really don't think he is being pushed around. The fact of the matter is, we're on 10%. Nobody else is on 10%. That's a win for Starmer.
There are other countries, if you look down the list, who are on 10%.
Okay, in comparison
just
with
not the European Union.
Well, in comparison with China, 34%. So, you know, you can't have it both ways. Starmer is standing up for us. He's played. People have said, oh, he crawled to Trump in the White House with the royal invitation. But in fact, he's playing it well, and he stood up in Parliament today, and this is his game, and it's not over yet. This is Trump's opening gambit. This is Trump saying, OK, here's the deck. And we all have to come back and then negotiate.
Well, with respect, I don't
well.
think that car manufacturing workers in Sunderland will feel your sense of jubilation tonight.
No,
they'll be very worried about their jobs.
It'll come back.
People who are working in the luxury car manufacturing industry here in the UK, which is predominantly export to the United States, will be deeply worried about this.
The entire world has got 25%. And I can bet you in the coming weeks, Starmer will claw something back.
Well, let's wait and see. I don't share your enthusiasm for Starmer's negotiating skills. Look what he's done in the past.
Well, what would Kemi Badenoch have done? And tell me, how would she have bettered that?
Well, she wouldn't have sacked our chief trade negotiator, for example, Crawford Faulkner, which was one of the first things that Jonathan Reynolds did. Frankly, we would have a decent trade secretary. Jonathan Reynolds, remember, is the guy who lied about being a solicitor, has no commercial experience whatsoever, fabricated his own CV.
That's irrelevant in this situation.
I don't think it is irrelevant, because in a situation as serious as this, I want somebody good around the table, not somebody whose CV was so weak he had to make it up.
That's why I'm querying Kemi Badenoch.
Well, I would rather have Kemi Badenoch around the table than Jonathan Reynolds.
Catherine, you were to make a point on something.
Yes, to come in on this. When you were in power, Robert, you not only kept all of this net zero stuff, you kept the fines. So though you moved it back by 5 years, you kept the fines. You know, if they don't sell 28% of EVs, they get £15,000 a car, which is a massive fine. So please don't be too high on your high horse. Meanwhile, you're absolutely right. This is a negotiating ploy. Trump couldn't negotiate trade deals because the US had incredibly low tariffs. Many of the things we bought from them were zero tariffed. So you can't negotiate. If you go to the Trade Department today, and I'm on the Trade and Agriculture Commission, and ask them why we have 10% tariffs on oranges, they will say, oh, it's so we can negotiate trade deals. So we kept a whole lot of the EU's very high agricultural tariffs on so that we could go and negotiate a deal with Australia and a deal with New Zealand, etc., and the CPTPP. Trump couldn't negotiate with anyone because every country in the world is saying, well, we've already got free access to your country, so why would we do a negotiation with you? So what he's done is incredibly smart. And yes, he needs to get the products of industry back. He had the high-level stuff, but he had lost the basis. And without the steel making, without the aluminium, without the tools, without the parts, you can't actually build the Air Force. And yet we all expect his Air Force to come and save us when we next get attacked. And yet he wasn't responsible for that. China was making all the parts. We saw that in COVID. Our car industry went to zero because we couldn't get a $600 chip out of China. And so the Rolls-Royce is sitting there waiting to be exported because it can't get a and it's a £600,000 car. I mean, you need to have those products. So he's making sense.
I used to have to use the razor that my ex-girlfriend used to shave her legs. It scratched me and it made me feel weird. But fear not, because Manscaped is back with a game changer. This isn't just any old shaver. We're talking about the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. One for that baby smooth look and another when you want to keep it a bit rugged. Get this, it's waterproof. You can use it in the shower, by the pool, or even while scuba diving if that's your thing. This beauty runs for 75 minutes on a single charge. That's enough time to shave your face, your mate's face, and still have juice left over for touch-ups. You'll also get their Power Shave Gel for a proper wet shave experience, and a face shave soother to keep your mug looking fresh and irritation-free. It's like having a barber in your bathroom, minus the awkward small talk. Click the link in the description and use the code GBN for a whopping 20% off and free shipping with the code GBN at manscaped.com. Join the 11 million blokes worldwide who trust Manscaped. Your face will thank you, and so will your wallet. As our resident American on the panel, Republican commentator Noreen Knotson, who's been sitting there very patiently for the last hour and a half, actually, how do you feel as an American seeing that and hearing the Economist reaction from Catherine saying that what Donald Trump has done is actually very smart?
I think Catherine is spot on. As you know, when I first started, I said his move was brilliant. He wants to bring people to the negotiating table, and he wants to talk about the art of the possible. And that's the way to do it. And let's keep this in perspective as well, because coming from a very low base, he's also trying to negotiate a peace deal right now between Russia and Ukraine. And in order to bring Europe on board as well, that's another lever he's going to have for negotiation, also with the UK as well. So he's thinking strategically. And Americans are very happy, as you rightly pointed out. We don't want supply chain vulnerabilities with China. And to have TSMC investing in Arizona, $200 billion, he's gotten over $2 trillion foreign direct investment into the U.S. He hasn't even been in power for 3 months. We're drilling. We're at the highest we've ever been in oil. So that's also going to bring down concerns about inflation. So I think we're in a great position. OK, now one of the build-ups, Mr. Jenrick, just to bring you back in here to this, was, well, no free trade without free speech. That's one of the things that Trump was very serious about, or his administration was certainly very serious about. And I know this is directly in your brief, isn't it? The idea of 2-tier sentencing, 2-tier justice taking place in Britain. Do you think that some of the issues that we've got over here will have had any bearing on Trump's mind there when it comes to this tariff and our future trading relationship?
Well, look, firstly, I want to thank GBNews and your viewers for all of the amazing coverage and support there was for our campaign to stop these two-tier sentencing guidelines. And it was a result of that outcry, which you helped to spearhead, that the government has ultimately changed tack and the Sentencing Council has suspended those biased guidelines that would have discriminated against men, against white people, against Christians, that would have come into force this week. But I think this is a deeper problem. Every week I am coming across cases of two-tier justice in this country. Only in the last few days we've uncovered that the Ministry of Justice's own guidelines are prioritising ethnic minorities for bail, and the probation service are being asked to take account of someone's culture, whether they were suffering from intergenerational trauma, whatever that means, or whether there were historical events that were making them more likely to commit crimes. I think people in this country are sick of certain groups being prioritised, being put forward, and that's incredibly patronising, frankly, also to ethnic minorities, to suggest that just because of the colour of your skin or the faith that you have, you're more likely to commit crime or you should be given a more lenient sentence. And so the two-tier justice campaign goes on. It is two-tier justice under two-tier Keir, and I'm going to keep fighting it tooth and nail.
OK.
But don't you agree that for decades the two-tier system existed, but in the other way round? That black people and minorities were targeted actually far more than white people?
No, I don't think...
That's factually
no, it
correct.
It isn't.
It is
There is
factually
no...
correct.
I do not believe our criminal justice system is institutionally racist. There's no conclusive
Met
or
Police
consistent
certainly were.
evidence that someone is more likely to be charged or sentenced because of the colour of their skin. What there definitely is differentials in outcomes. Some ethnic minority groups are more likely to commit crime than others. But I don't believe you correct that by lacing our whole system with discrimination.
No, I agree.
I want people to be treated equally before the law. That, to me, is the absolute essence
Minister
of the rule of
Mahmood
law.
has said very clearly that's what she wants to change.
Well, it's not what's happening in her department, because she's peddling two-tier justice with every passing day we find...
She's changing it.
The reason I raised it originally was, especially in light of what we have just seen here from President Trump, the 10% tariff on the UK, the noises leading up to it. The Americans, clearly I'm leaning on you for all things American here, but the Americans, Norah, appear to do care deeply about what goes on in this country in terms of free speech and in terms of perceptions of two-tier sentencing, and are willing to leverage that against trade deals, aren't they?
We do care deeply about it. I mean, this was the birthplace of rule of law and our legal system in the U.S. So yes, it is our mother country. We care about it, and we care about democracy and maintaining the fundamentals of democracy.
OK. But just before I go to my next guest down the line, Catherine, you were showing me something very interesting there. And I don't know if it's possible for you to hold this up to one of the cameras we've got here. I think I've found out exactly what camera number you're on. Camera 7, which is there. There you go. So what are we looking at here?
OK. Well, Trump referenced something called the USTR's report on foreign trade barriers. It's 400 pages long. I didn't print out the whole thing, but I did print out the UK's one is 5 pages. The EU's one is 35 pages. What is fascinating is how many trade barriers they've got on AI and things like that.
So these are all the barriers. Sorry, I slightly missed that. I'm a bit sometimes a bit slow off the mark. These are all the barriers that the EU puts on the US.
On the US.
Right, OK.
And what's interesting is so many of them have come in after we left. And that is one of the great things about Brexit. So you can see that they... everything that Draghi wrote about the EU in their report is true, and it's shocking. And I used to get asked by Americans, you know, why did you leave the EU? Because they always thought it was like NAFTA.
Right.
And when now they know why we left the EU. Anyone in any American company reads this report will know why we left the EU. It's just extraordinary. The way it doesn't even work the way it's meant to. So Brussels makes a rule, and according to the Americans, every country implements it quite differently. So if you're exporting to every country in the EU, you're getting different treatment depending on which
Should
one.
Remainers, Mr Jenrick, be saying a whopping great big thank you to Brexiteers tonight, do you think?
I think they should. Look, this is very harmful regardless, but clearly would be dramatically worse if we were still in the EU tonight. So the ability to have our own freedoms, to set our own trade policy and not be lumped in with the rest of continental Europe is immensely beneficial to the British economy tonight.